This is the best hike in the state of Ohio. Oh, this is so pretty. All the trails here in Cuyahoga Valley National Park are dog friendly.
Caitlin had a Reuben and it was so delicious she couldn't even wait to film it.
This is the first of 100 waterfalls, Caitlin, that we're gonna see.
We're gonna see all of them?
You look very Canal chic.
What is that?
No idea. Hi, what are you?
We are heading to bat monitoring basics.
Final bat count of the night has been...
We are back in the saddle again, hitting another national park, and we stopped at the visitor center, which we always recommend doing. So we got our magnet, we got our sticker, and our passport stamp. And for the first time ever on our national park journey, one of the volunteers, we were like trying to find the page for the stamp, and he knew exactly what page it was and was like, it's page 55 in the Midwest. So thank you for that. We've never had that happen before. This visitor center is really cool because it's the old train depot here at Boston Mill. It's very beautiful, and they have great exhibits inside. Cuyahoga Valley National Park is located in northern Ohio, just about 20 miles south of Cleveland. It's an interesting park that is intertwined with the Cleveland Metro Parks, combining nature with more of an urban feel. Cuyahoga Valley became a national recreation area in December of 1974, marking 50 years of revitalization and conservation of an area that had quite the polluted past. The Cuyahoga River became known as the river that burned, catching fire nearly a dozen times due to the trash, oil, and debris in the water. The largest and most famous blaze was just 5 years before this area received its recreational area designation. The Cuyahoga River catching fire shocked people into action, sparking America's modern environmental movement. According to the National Park Service, it even helped lead to the creation of the Environmental Protection Agency, and laws for pollution control and cleanup were enacted. The incident even inspired the first Earth Day in 1970, and today all that work is evident as the area is on the mend with the return of fish and birds. Cuyahoga Valley officially became a national park in 2000, place you can dive into the fascinating history of the Ohio and Erie canals, stroll through over 125 miles of hiking trails, and walk through areas brought back to life thanks to all those conservation efforts. We're all set up at our campsite to explore Cuyahoga Valley National Park, and this is the Silver Springs Campground, which is in Stowe, Ohio. And that's because Cuyahoga Valley does not have any camping at all inside the national park, and there's actually pretty limited availability for camping outside as well. So we found this online. It's a great option. You do have to reserve your site online, and it's a mix of 20 and 30 amp electric sites, so make sure you check that as well. We're in site 25, which does have 30 amp, and then there are water fill stations throughout the park, so we just filled water before setting up. And we're only about 15 minutes away from the park entrance, so it's a great location. In today's episode, we're going to be starting in the north and working our way south, visiting some of the park's most popular trails and overlooks, thanks in part to our trusty audio guide.
Cuyahoga Valley National Park is a shining example of the power of conservation.
If you've watched any of our other national park episodes, you know how much we love audio guides. It's like having a tour guide in your car. What is that?
I have no idea. Hi, what are you?
What is that?
Is that?
Is it a rat? Like a really big rat?
No.
So we were told that the mystery animal that we saw was a muskrat. So I wasn't that far off. The name rat was still in the name. But he was super docile and like not afraid of any people, which was interesting. But I'm glad we got to see that. We stopped at Lock 39. The audio tour brought us here. We could not find Lock 39. We even asked around. Nobody seemed to know where it was. But the audio guide told us that there used to be 146 locks up and down this waterway. That's amazing.
Well, you know how much we love visitor centers and museums, and the Canal Exploration Center is definitely worth a stop.
There are some amazing exhibits in there, and I really like them because I'm a visual learner and they're very hands-on.
All right, Caitlin, are you ready to try on some period-appropriate clothing?
Yeah, let's see. This is pretty fancy.
Huh.
This feels very like Little Red Riding Hood. How do I look?
You look very Canal chic.
The game of trying to get the boat through the lock was so much fun.
Caitlin, you were great at it. I was really impressed. Great job.
I worked the lock. I got a little confused on the first step of just basically hitching up my mules, which was fine. Then I was able to move the boat in, the water lowered, and then the boat continued on.
And somehow, you accomplished 18 out of 11 steps.
It's because of my confusion with the mules in the beginning. But hey, I'll take it for my first time. It was really fun. And it's just a great way, like a great representation to really understand how they would move along the Erie Canal. And there is a lock out front that you can look at. And so I would recommend like peek at the lock, but then go into the exhibit center, learn all about the area and how the locks worked and how important they were, and then come back out, because then you're like, oh yeah, now I know what these parts did and how this worked and everything. So it gives you a lot more context.
And there are 2 separate floors of exhibits that talk about not just the canal, but why the canal is located here, how it impacted commerce, not just in this part of Ohio, but across the state and across the country, as well as giving you a taste of what life was like on the water if you worked or lived on the canal boats.
And I didn't know anything about the mules prior to this, like how the mules were actually pulling the boats and helping them move down too. So the mules were very instrumental in the entire process. Definitely check the days and the hours of the Canal Exploration Center for your visit, because they are limited. We're here in the month of June right now, and they are open Thursday through Sunday. So I'm sure that changes based on seasonality. So just double check. And if it is open, make sure you come during your visit.
This is Tinker's Creek Gorge Overlook, which, as the name indicates, you're overlooking the gorge where the creek is contained. This, however, is also inside of a Cleveland Metro Park, because there are 15 different Cleveland Metro Parks which adjoin, or in some cases overlap, the Cuyahoga National Park. And from what we were told on the guide, this is the only location that has ever been upgraded from a national recreation to a national park.
I made it to a very popular overlook. This is the Bridal Falls access.
We've been told there are 100 waterfalls here at Cuyahoga.
And I've seen pictures of several of them, and these are some beautiful waterfalls. Bridal Falls is named that because it looks like a bride's veil, and I feel like there are probably hundreds of Bridal Falls all across the country.
I think we've seen several so far on our national park tour.
That's an idea. We should start like keeping a map of all the Bridal Falls, and then we can rank them. So we'll see where this one
I definitely remember there's one at Yosemite.
And I think in Hawaii.
Yes, and I think even maybe Yellowstone.
Sounds right. Let us know how many Bridal Falls you've seen. And Bridal Falls is very easy to get to. It's less than a 5-minute walk from the parking area. That's what's really cool about this park too, is that a lot of the overlooks and things is super accessible and easy to get to. You don't have to hike really far, long distances for a big reward.
We're in the Bedford Reservation area, which is near the town of Bedford, which is kind of surrounded by the national park. And this is such an interesting national park because you can drive in and out of the park, and there are communities inside and adjacent to the park. Sometimes you're going right by somebody's house as you're heading into other areas of the park. This area is just outside the park next to Tinker Creek, and that's why it's the Tinker Creek Tavern, which dates all the way back to 1902. As we were walking up, they had their smoker running, and so I got really excited because I love smoked meat. And so I got a Cuban, and it was delicious. It was pulled pork, smoked here. And then Caitlin had a Reuben, and it was so delicious she couldn't even wait to film it. That was so good.
All right, we made another little side trek to go see the Great Falls of Tinker's Creek, which we are told by the audio guide is his favorite falls on the tour. So naturally, we had to come see it.
Of course. Also, we were told that it is the largest by volume falls in the entire national park.
And it's also really interesting. It's got a lot going for it because it's a viaduct. And we just learned a whole heck of a lot about viaducts and bridges and when it is a viaduct versus when it's not.
Okay, so according to the sign, all viaducts are bridges, but not all bridges are viaducts.
Got it.
And the reason for something being a viaduct is if a bridge has multiple spans, that means it is a viaduct.
You do have to walk down some rocky steps in order to see the actual viaduct. And I was a little confused because I thought we were looking for the bridge. But the bridge is what they had constructed over top of the arch, which you can still see, and that was what allowed the creek to pass under so they can then build the bridge on top. So I learned something thanks to Howard and the sign. And according to the sign, the arch is 512 feet long, has a 20-degree turn inside, and it was completed in 1902. Always important to read the signs.
All right, we're on another boardwalk.
leading to another waterfall. This is Brandywine Falls, which Caitlin had said it's the tallest in the state.
The entire state of Ohio. Yeah, 60 feet tall.
That's tall.
And I think judging by like the parking lot and the nice bathrooms that are here, and from what I've read online, this is probably one of the most popular areas of the park. There is a boardwalk that you can take, and then there's like a shorter option to go see the falls, but there are also longer trails, like you can do a loop trail, or there are other trails that like shoot off from this trail. So I think it's just a very popular area within the park.
For sure. And I will forewarn you, if you take one of those longer ones, like if you do the loop, there are steep steps, and it's a little bit more intense than what we are on right now, which is a nice elevated boardwalk.
Yeah, we're very elevated. As soon as we started walking on it, if you look down, the water was very far down below us, and I can hear the waterfall.
I can see it.
This is cool. All the layers. We went to pick up a very special package for this next part of our adventure. Welcome, Scout! Come here, Scout! Come here! I told you, you're so excited. All right, we're gonna do the Ledges Trail, which is one of the most popular trails here. We've seen incredible things online about how beautiful it is, and it's a loop trail that we're also gonna take out to the Ledges Overlook. All the trails here in Cuyahoga Valley National Park are dog friendly, so Scout is very excited to bring you along with us.
Scout, are you excited?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go, Scout. Okay. All right, so we just made an executive decision to do the trail a little bit differently. You kind of have different options that you can take when you're here at the Ledges. And so we're gonna keep going straight past where it says to turn right for the Ledges Trail towards Happy Days. And then there are stone steps we can take down, and that will place us below the really pretty rock formations. Then we'll go past Icebox Cave, continue around to the Overlook, and then I think we're gonna take the connector trail back over to the parking lot. So that is our plan. This is very cool. Scout, do you see that? Are you up for it? These formations are really cool, and this rock looks like it's balanced on top of the other rock, but it's not. It's just like an illusion, but goodness, it's pretty. Like all of the green and the ferns, and you've got like sunlight peeking through. Going through the cave. Oh, wow. Oh, this is so pretty. Oh my gosh, there's so much moss covering the rock faces, and there's layers and layers and ferns everywhere. Oh, this is gorgeous. Wow. I can definitely see why this is on so many different lists and blogs about being one of the best trails to do here in Cuyahoga Valley National Park and in the entire state. I mean, it's on lists that say like, this is the best hike in the state of Ohio. So that is high praise, especially if you're a kid. Oh my gosh, just like weaving through some of those almost canyon-like areas. It is just really cool. Look at this tree, Howard. Mm-hmm. Wow. There's this tree that's like growing on the side of the rock face, and its root is going like all the way down to the ground. Well, I can see the parking lot, so our little plan worked. We made it to the Ledges Overlook.
Yeah.
And it wasn't much of an overlook.
No, it overlooks things,
just
not ledges.
Yeah. Lots of trees, very tall trees, but it was pretty.
I guess with the name, I was expecting to see ledges from the overlook, not standing on a ledge overlooking something else.
Yes, it's much more, I guess, literal.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's definitely pretty.
And it is nice to see all the trees thriving, and they're super green and tall, and just know that if you want to see the ledges, just be on that lower trail that we did.
Yes, so starting on the trail, I would go clockwise. If you go clockwise, you'll definitely see ledges.
Yes, and that was very beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
And very worth it. So, all right, Scott, you ready to head back to the car? All right, lead the way. Come on.
So we're on our way to the Everett covered bridge. Now this is the reconstructed bridge. The original one was built in the 1870s. Now today, you can still walk across it, but it is no longer open to vehicles or anything like that, just for preservation purposes. But it is definitely open to dogs.
We're heading now to Beaver Marsh, which I'm really excited to go check out because it has such a fascinating story of how it was returned to what it once was. The 70-acre wetland was sadly turned into like a salvage yard at one point, and in the 1980s, the Sierra Club worked to completely restore it. So they started removing all of those old cars, and so the beavers returned to the area and built a dam, which is what beavers do, causing it to flood. And so now it is a marsh once again, and there are boardwalks that go out over the marsh, and I'm hoping that we see some beavers, but if not, there is a beaver statue right here. Finally found the remnants of an old lock, and if you don't know what that is, it's kind of like an elevator for a boat. We just saw the elevation change from where we are all the way down to Lake Erie, and so they had to account for that elevation change for the boats. And so there were two doors, and they could close one or open one, and it would raise or lower the water in order to account for that, and the boat could keep moving down the waterway. Well, we haven't seen any beavers yet, but we saw a couple of birds, and I keep hearing the northern green frog. His call sounds like the pluck of a banjo. And then I think I was hearing the call of a gray tree frog, which is kind of like a song of a bird, but it keeps happening over and over. And so I think that is the other type of frog. But definitely keep hearing the northern green frog. I just heard it again. It really does sound like the pluck of a banjo. It's so cool. How you doing there?
I got all the stuff. Well, Caitlin has some stuff too.
I do. I have a chair.
Yes.
That's because we are heading to Bat Monitoring Basics.
The name sounds like what it is, folks. We're going to be monitoring bats. This is a pre-scheduled event, so tickets are required, though the tickets were free, right?
Yeah, totally free. But I just had to go onto the website, which took me to Eventbrite, and reserve a slot. And they tell you to bring chairs so that you can sit comfortably, and I hope we can see some bats.
My name is Kaylin, and I am a ranger here at Cuyahoga Valley National Park. Let's get started. So first, I'd like to sort of gauge everybody's attitude and knowledge towards bats. Some people think that bats are pests, or predators, or disease-ridden. And a lot of these ideas perpetuate harmful stereotypes about bats that are rooted in myth. So, tonight we are going to shed some light on these creatures of the dark, and we are going to bust some of these myths that society has taught us. So I am going to say a statement, an opinion statement about bats. And if you agree with that statement, go ahead and move to your right. Bats are scary.
Are bats scary?
No, bats are not scary.
Yeah, we can be neutral, that's okay.
So while we're waiting for the bats to come out, Ranger Kaylin has been giving us all kinds of interesting facts. And I also like it too because we're getting up and moving, which is helping because it's like 8:30 at night, which you know is past my bedtime. So we're gonna go now and look at some different types of bats and figure out which one we relate to the most.
Caitlin, what's your bat?
The little brown bat, because they go and they forage and then they digest and then they forage again. So that bat likes to eat a lot.
Yeah. Like you.
Yeah, like me. All right, now we play the waiting game, and hopefully soon, within like the next 5 to 10 minutes, they'll start like poking their heads out, and then like one will be the scout, we're told, and we'll kind of see, and then they'll start coming out like more and more. So we know the spot to keep our eye on, and just hope we see them.
Facing threats and challenges. These include things like habitat loss. This also includes things like white nose syndrome. So you might have seen white nose syndrome on some of the fact sheets in there or on some of the cards out here. Now, what is white nose syndrome? It is a fungus that can grow on bats' faces and bodies and make them really itchy. And so this becomes a problem when bats are hibernating and they're trying not to use much of their energy. And then this fungus is waking them up to scratch because it's so itchy, and then they don't have enough food and water to survive because it's the winter time. There are also other human disturbances at play here. Things like chemical pesticide use are causing decreases in insect populations that those bats need. And so this isn't just out in the world. The bats in Cuyahoga Valley National Park are also experiencing threats. And so these bats that you got to know, these bats that you got to befriend, the northern long-eared, the Indiana bat, the tricolored bat, and the little brown bat are all either state or federally endangered. And so we are working to get ahead of those declines with research.
It's an ultrasonic microphone. It makes the determination kind of like the Merlin app for birds. But our phones are geared towards human vocalization.
And so public perception is a really huge part of wildlife conservation that people might not consider. So when people don't know about or don't care about a certain species, it can be really hard to round up resources and support for that species. So because people might think bats are dangerous or bats are scary, this means that they'd be less likely to donate to a bat fund than they would to, say, a more charismatic species like an elephant.
Well, that was a super cool and very unique ranger program that we got to attend. And the final bat count, drum roll.
Final bat count of the night has been 107.
Woo-hoo! So we saw a lot more than either Howard or I guessed. Howard guessed 20? Yeah?
10.
Oh, 10, that's right.
But you guessed.
I guessed 5.
5.
And then I said 20. So we were way off. We had no idea how many bats were in there. It was just really cool to see because you could actually like see them peek their heads out and then they would like just take off and fly. And then once one went, it was like they kind of would come in these clumps. And so it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just very, very cool.